What's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of Family by Heart. Solo episode, or really technically a duo episode, since I got Brandon back with me. Dude, I've been loving this season having you on as co-host. I feel like you and I have been just playing off each other very well, even in our last episode with Lee, where you didn't know much on the topic. I love that your interest and your intelligence and your really just who you are as a person was able to allow you to get in and actually ask important questions. So this has been fun so far having you on, and it's great to see you today, man. How you doing today?
Great. I didn't know that we were going to open up with a whole bunch of compliments for me. I'm blushing. I'm fair skinned and red haired, and things kind of happen. But that's kind of part of it. I think that we play off very well off of each other. And some of these topics, like with Lee, are topics that normally I wouldn't even really be introduced to. So they're very interesting to me. I enjoy learning about new things and just what would you call expanding my knowledge and figuring out everything else and just kind of knowing and appreciating um, some of the things that other people go through and other things that other people are dealing with and everything like that. And I think that that I know that the topic is very important to you, really hits home, and you got emotional during a few points of it, and I thought it was great. I know that you had been really working hard and everything to get her on, and I thought it was a fantastic episode, and I'm happy for you that you were able to connect with her, and I thought that it went off great.
Absolutely, and yeah, it was important to me, and I think the importance of you being willing to learn is something that a lot of our listeners and a lot of people in the world really need to take on, is the opportunity to learn from people when you can, to diversify, to open their minds, to learn. There's so much hate and vitriol in our country right now, and if we just took a minute to listen and learn, um, and on the other side of it, to also not just be forcing our opinions and beliefs down the throats of other people, too,
Hmm.
not screaming it in their ears.
Hmm.
Because again, that morning you messaged me saying like, "Hey, was looking at things. I'm not really sure this is something that I need to be on for. Um, I'm okay if you just do this one on your own." And I respected that. And again, I told you in the text, I'm not your boss. This is something you and I are going to do together.
Hmm.
Um, but I would really appreciate you being there and being on it. And I think it was impactful that you were there. I think the questions you asked, the importance of diagnosis, I think that was something that I probably would have missed. Someone who's going through it right now with the autism spectrum and getting ready for Tracy's IEP
Hmm.
um, thing, like your being able to be willing and learn, like, is something that I think is really important. So again, it was just great having you on, and great having you have my back for that one. So
Yeah, no,
appreciate it, man.
absolutely. And like I said, I thought that that's a topic that I would have never educated myself on, to be honest with you. I
Hmm.
will, if it came up in conversation with somebody that I know is impacting, I may gloss over it because it's not a topic that I am very well versed in. And I'm always afraid of offending people and, like
Hmm.
saying the wrong thing, or, even some topics are so sensitive. If you even just use your path could be right and your direction could be right, but if you use the wrong word or phrase, like, it could take on a completely different meaning that you had no idea. And that's what I was afraid of. I knew, like I said, I knew that that episode was very important to you. And the last thing I would want to do is have me detract from it. So I'm glad that everything went the way that it did. I thought it was amazing. And I hope that other people that were out there and listening think the same thing, and hopefully it spikes the book sales too, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I absolutely would love that for Lee, because
Yeah,
she was just awesome, and having her
fantastic.
on, she was just a gracious guest. And definitely looking forward to more guests and more interviews, and I know you got a few people up your sleeve that you're
Yep.
interested in talking to on some great topics, and as well as I do, I got a local DJ that's gonna interested in coming on, and so we have a interview set for her for the beginning of May, and I'm excited for that.
Hmm.
So what'd you get into this past weekend yourself? Anything fun?
It's what, April, end of April now, so I am like trying to get mid season form as far as the yard and the lawn goes. Um,
There you go.
you got to kind of attack it early, and not to go off on a tangent, but we have had for the last 3-4 years these I think they're called starling birds, these tiny little birds. They like nest behind our uh, shutters in the front because it's like the sun comes from this way and so it doesn't hit the front, so it stays cool. So all these little annoying birds are all over the place. And so last weekend, I'm not a big fan of heights in the first place. So
Mm.
I get my ladder out. I know that I have to do this. Maureen had been asking me to do this for a couple of weeks, which is kind of advanced for me to only do it. It takes 2 weeks of asking me to do it. I get my big metal ladder out, set this thing all up, and it was cold on Sunday. It was a lot colder than I thought. And
Yeah,
so I set this
yeah.
thing up. I end up, going up and pulling out all these nests from behind the gutter or behind the shutters and spraying it out and cleaning it out and all this stuff. And then this morning I took the garbage out and I walk back to the house and I just see this big line of bird shit just down one of the black shutters. And it's just
Oh
like,
man,
and so so that means I got to climb back up on that ladder. But yeah, so a lot of yard work this weekend. Just trying to get stuff done. We're gonna have a graduation party this summer, and like I don't want
nice.
to save it all till the end. And so it's like the more I keep up on it now, the less I'll have to do, in the 11th hour before the graduation party. So
Being
yeah,
proactive. There you go. Being
oh,
proactive. I love it. I
it
love it.
comes in whims. It comes in whims.
Yeah.
If I could do it consistently, it would be great. We're guys and we procrastinate.
We take a relaxed approach, is what I like to call it, and not procrastinate. We take a relaxed approach. When we get to it, we need to get to it. So it's
Yep.
kind of funny that you mentioned being guys. Like I end up having to fill in this weekend last minute for our church's confirmation retreat, where it was 7 boys, and then the other chaperone that was down there was also a guy who had been there the whole weekend, and suddenly I came in to help replace um, a couple of females that had been there for the course of the weekend, but had to step away. So suddenly it turned into a guys' weekend, and um, not to say that we didn't still do the things on the itinerary that was set for us, but we kind of took more of a relaxed approach on like things like, okay, we didn't start right at that time, but we still did it stuff. And but it was a good weekend. It was a powerful weekend, and honestly, it kind of reminded me how much I love doing like public speaking and talking in front of people, even though it was just 7 young minds, like 7 preteen boys. Like just there was parts where just something I would say would just spark their attention and hold their attention. Stuff is like, ooh,
Hmm.
I miss doing that. I miss that, like with the room full of people and stuff. So if anyone's looking for a speaker out there, hit me up. Hit me up. I can talk about anything.
Slide
I
in
have
the
a
DMs.
podcast. Yeah. So so yeah. Well, this week's episode, we are doing something kind of fun. Uh,
It's always
we are
fun.
talking about yeah, it's always fun. Exactly. I like that. I like that. See, have my back there again. Have my back there again. It's but it's always fun. But this week's episode, we kind of were kicking around some different ideas and things, and I went through something with I'm assuming one of my boys. I can't remember what it was. Like we were talking about this before we started rolling the camera, but it was an idea I had of like nothing could have prepared me for this part of being a parent or being a husband or being a homeowner. So I'm like, oh, that would be such a good episode. So we kind of came up with our own anecdotes, our own lists of things, and I think this could be a lot of fun. So the idea here is nothing could have prepared me for. And we're going to have some serious ones. We're going to have some funny ones. We're some lighthearted ones. Um, and I think I'd kind of let off with it and just kind of follow up with it as the first one. Nothing could have prepared me for how real mom or slash dad brain is, because I cannot remember for the life of me what it was that sparked the whole idea behind this topic. And there would be times where we're like, oh, that would be so good. Like, and your mind just totally blanks about it later.
Yep.
You know, if you don't write it down at that moment or do a note in your phone or voice memo, you just completely forget. Or maybe you walk into a room and you forget what you're going to do. But mom and dad brain is real. It
You
is
know,
real.
and it's funny that you say that because I feel like there are so many things that when we were younger, we see our parents doing or whatever, like, man, I guess maybe that's what happens when you get old, right? And so, you're talking about putting the notes and stuff in your phone, and like I'll do the same thing. Like if I'm, doing something and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, I'll sit, and if it's, let's say it's about work, I'll sit there, I'll open up my my personal email and I'll email my work email, like, this is what my thought was. But like the mom and dad brain
Right.
is like, so whatever might have been happening, you also have four other things going on at that point, and then whatever happened in the next 15 minutes, like I feel like everyone, when you're a parent, you are thinking of, you have just, your brain is just separated into like 10%, and like in order to get something to stick in there, you have to like make sure you save like 20-30% for that one item, or else that thing is gone just as fast as it comes in.
Right.
And so it's like, I remember, people used to always have a calendar, keep a calendar and everything. I'm like, what? How can you not just remember what's going on? But we use our Apple Calendar, iCalendar, whatever it's called, like religiously. And if it's not on that thing, it is not legit and it's not happening. It's like the Holy
Right.
Grail. It's a Holy Grail.
I'm like looking back, I'm starting to think like, you know what, maybe I sent Brandon a message about what the idea was. Like,
Yep. This is common for me also. Oh, I might have texted
right,
this.
right.
I might have
And
emailed
now
this.
like we're creating like dead air too. Well, regardless, I didn't see it on there and I don't want to waste time, even though I could edit it later on. But I'm gonna assume that there's something about my youngest son having some sort of accident somewhere where you wouldn't have expected it. So, and I might have put that back in here a while. So what about you? Something that couldn't have prepared you for what? What's one on your list?
So when when Luke was probably 3 years old, we signed him up for soccer with some friends. He was playing with a kid that he knew. And I wasn't a soccer player growing up. Well, I was until like third grade, I think, third or fourth
Okay.
grade, and then I moved into football. But we wanted to get Luke doing something. He just turned three. I think three was the youngest, eight at that point, and we were down in Highland, and we were probably on week three of soccer. Combined participation between the first 2 weeks, and then this week was probably less than 15 seconds on Luke's part. Like he just had no interest in this thing. We would have him go, and he would just kind of stand there, push him out there, whatever. He had no interest in it. And we're like, okay, maybe we need to create like some sort of a more of a calm, atmosphere going into it, so that he's not like all over the place. We can whatever, we can just go into it. So we go into the third week, and my mother-in-law comes, and me, Maureen, and Brooke and Luke. It's us five there, and there's like a playground that we're playing on before it starts. And you remember those like a half circle metal, like hexagon shaped,
Dome
like
thing.
climbing thing, dome thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and this is the day that we're like, okay, we need to create a calm atmosphere so that Luke can go out there and kind of do his thing. And so we're on the playground, and Brooke's climbing up. She's on the top of the dome thing. And my mother-in-law is like, oh yeah, you just go ahead and jump down through it. So Brooke goes to jump down through the middle of this thing. Mind you, it's all these awkward hexagon metal bars, right? Right? It's
Right.
like, it's not like a toy that's okay now. It's like when we used to play with lawn darts. Um, so Brooke jumps down through it, and what just bashes her mouth on this thing on the way down.
Oh.
So at
I've-
that point, Luke's at the side. So it's just about to start. So Maureen takes Brooke, and they rush off to whatever the closest hospital was at that point, because her mouth was it was bad. It was bad.
yeah.
And Maureen's always worried about, are their teeth messed up? That's the first thing she checks. And so it was just pure chaos. And then that day, Luke goes out there. He participates from the beginning to the end. He scores like 4 or 5 goals. And that was the only time that he ever did. So it's like, as parents, like we're sitting there, we're trying to create this like very calm atmosphere. Like that's what they'll thrive in, right? That's what they'll thrive in. And then as soon as we have
Uh,
mad chaos, he goes out there and does great. Never to be seen from again on the soccer field. But yeah, it was just, we were trying to plan for it. We had grandma there supporting, we had Brooke there supporting, parents supporting, and Brooke goes down, it turns into chaos, and Luke goes out there and played well. So I don't know. It's just like, you try to control the situation as much as you can. But then what you finally find out when your parents just like, sometimes you just got to let it happen. You got to let it happen.
yeah.
Because nothing would prepare me for that day that we would have went there. This would have happened. We would have split ways. Half of us would have went emergency room. The other half went Pele on the soccer field, and we're going there. So, it's just, parent life comes at you fast, and you just always have to be ready to adjust to it.
I love that. I love that. We also signed Dracy up for soccer at 3, and he was super excited because he was going to be on his best friend's team, or his Princess Abby, as he called her.
Ooh.
And it was the other way, though, where we got there, he realized there was a playground right next to the soccer field. No interest in playing soccer after
Done.
that.
Done.
And then Draco, who was they're Irish twins, so he was just behind Dracy. So he's three. There were three. There were 3 and 2 at the time. So Draco kind of was like watching and showing interested in playing a little bit. So like, all right, well, let's try to get him out there and stuff. Between the two of them and all the practices and games, between the two of them, they maybe played 4 minutes of soccer during the course of a whole season.
Yep.
So
Yep.
like, all right, well, so we haven't signed them back up for soccer since. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
we're not going to do that again.
Yeah. We kind of took the
So
approach when the kids were young to, try to get them trying as many things as possible and seeing what ones stuck. So you go from, of course, I really wanted him to play baseball. Baseball, I would say baseball and football were neck and neck for me. I think I'd like baseball a little bit more. And Luke played for a year, and then got to the point where it just wasn't interesting for him. I think it was too slow moving and everything like that. But you just kind of got to introduce them to it. Let them try and see where they go.
too slow moving. Was he watching you run the bases or what? Like,
my 40
burn.
my 40 time has to be in the 8. I'm like that Rich Eisen running. That's got to be me. I was never fleet of foot.
Oh yeah. You made up for it in other ways, though.
I tried.
I
tried.
You did, buddy. I remember. All right. Well, so we talked about getting our kids in activities. What about the marriage side of things? That secret relief you feel when your spouse shows interest in something, but then they tell you, "Oh yeah, me and my friend are going to do that," and you don't have to worry about going. Like that's.
Did you have that just
Okay.
happen? Sounds like it. It
No,
sounds like this is
no.
personal. It sounds like this just happened.
Don't throw me under the bus, dude. Like I'm already
I
I'm already putting my own foot in my mouth with that one, probably. Like, so you don't need to like highlight that one more. You're supposed to have my back, not
Yeah,
like
that one just doesn't sound like it came out of nowhere.
I mean, no. So my wife and I have different tastes in like music and certain activities, and so there's like I love going to concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I was at a concert this past Friday night, and it probably wouldn't have been her cup of tea, but it was somehow like. But there's been like some contemporary Christian music shows that she's wanted to go to like the last few summers and everything, and it's like I'm okay hanging out with the kids. Like if you want to invite one of your friends to go, like sure, like just
Mm-hmm.
it's cool, like
Mm-hmm.
so. And it's not to deflect and say, like, if she wanted me to go, I would go. But there's times where, like, if she wants to invite a friend instead of me, I'm totally fine with it. Like,
Yeah.
did I downplay that enough?
Yeah.
Did I? Okay.
I think I get what you're insinuating.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean,
we
there's also the times you're voluntold to do things too,
Mhm.
and stuff, and where you have no choice in the matter. Like, okay, like where it's pretty much not like, hey, do you want to do this with me? It's you're told like, hey, I need you to be here to volunteer for this thing. Like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever you need from me. Like, I will happily step in. If my wife says she needs me for something, I will happily be there. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to get
I'm
out of
sure
your
you're the same.
comfort zone, though. It's
Yeah.
good. It's good for a little change of pace every once in a while. It's you were talking about like different likes or dislikes or whatever. I think that what I see this in the most in is when we're trying to pick TV shows or movies to watch. Um,
Yeah.
if 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 she could watch lifetime rom coms, where it seems like every time, the guy comes back from, the guy, most of them are the guy stays there, right? And the girl comes back, and one of them owns some kind of a winery. And then 2 hours later, they probably have decorated a Christmas tree and drank wine, and they're getting married. And there's like 450 iterations of that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that that's the same way she feels about, the movies that I like, the action movies. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, we know what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen at the end, whatever. And that's why there's like 86 John Wick movies, It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's just a genre, and you're entertained for 2 hours, and that's kind of the way it is. But, we kind of figure out that we need to like rotate by who gets to pick what, and sometimes I'll sit through it, sometimes she'll sit through it, and sometimes it's like, yeah, I'll probably get on this and I'll probably scroll through Bleacher Report for about an hour, and but yeah, but at least you're in the same room, and everything like that. But
Yeah.
going, but again, I think it takes us out of our comfort zone, and if we were left to our own decisions, we would do the same thing probably over and over and over. And you know what they say, variety is a slice of life. And sometimes you just gotta go to this or that you didn't necessarily want to do. And the one thing in the one thing that I try to stay away from is just random shopping. So, oh yeah, I just want to go take a look at the store. It's like, it's like,
Yeah.
when I'm going shopping, I know that I want a a black hoodie, and extra large, and it's going to be right here, and then this and that. I walk in, I get it, I walk out, and I'm done. There's no browsing, there's no anything like that. And I start, and I've noticed, and I'll fully admit this, once the browsing gets to like the second or third store, like I'm ornery. I need to get some food or something, and yeah, I got to change it up a little bit. But other than that, every once in a while,
Yeah.
doing something that necessarily wouldn't really do by choice is it's good for us.
Yep. Now I'll counter that one
Mm.
with a kind of more of a serious remark when it comes to that, and it's how beneficial it is in marriage to have lanes.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife, she is the grocery shopper. She likes doing it. We early on in marriage, like we would do it together, and I didn't mind it, but it got to a point where like because she's a little more, I say frugal, but she has, I'm sure, saved us a ton of money over the years on different things. So she'll make her grocery list like, okay, I'm buying this from this store, this from this store, this from this store,
Yep.
because she knows that that's where it's cost the least amount of money, or it's the best quality, and it is it is frustrating to go to those different stores. Like, and when it's like, okay, there goes my Saturday. There goes our weekend. There goes our day. Like, it's all
Mm-hmm.
the time we had. Now, she does that, and again, bless her, she does the shopping like normally on, she spends her Saturday doing the grocery shopping, or
Mm-hmm.
her day off on Wednesday, because she's in children's ministry, so she works on Sundays, so her weekend is like a Wednesday and a Saturday. So she'll spend her day doing that while I'm with the kids, like at swim lessons or something like that, and then we can spend the rest of the day together. But it
Mm-hmm.
is definitely beneficial to have lanes with your partner where
Mm-hmm.
they're they're in charge of this, you're in charge of that, stuff like you're in charge of the lawn and the yard work and stuff, and maybe Maureen's in charge of something else. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's definitely a benefit, um, and sometimes you can't really prepare for that. You don't really think that you're going to be in charge of those things. Like, I just over time have naturally been more in charge of giving the kids a bath and getting them down for bed. And there's times where she'll absolutely step in and be a part of it, especially when the kids ask her to do that. And she'll ask me to stop at the store. But other than that, we kind of, everything runs a lot smoother when you have your own lanes and you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember one time that early on in marriage where we hadn't gotten on the Aldi bus yet, and I tried it for the first time, Aldi, and I came back with more than I should have bought. And I remember she was a little mad at me for that.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "But shopping's my thing. That's what I'm supposed to do." I'm like, "I was just trying to show you Aldi's kind of cool." Like, okay, like, all right. So, any serious things for you when it comes to parenting, marriage, home, pet ownership that sticks out to you that you couldn't have been prepared for?
um, Pet ownership, we kind of punted on that. I
Okay.
grew up with having pets and dogs and everything like that. But we've kind of punted from that. Um, no, I guess real reason. Just additional responsibility. It's
Hmm.
it's just kind of what it is. But as far as like serious things, so we kind of have we kind of have the same thing as far as what you're talking about with division of responsibilities and things like that, and it works well, right?
All right.
Like
Yeah.
Maureen's very good at tasks that are repeatable tasks, stuff like that. Very good at it. Like you said, like grocery store. Like she knows I need to go to Heinen's for this and this and this and Aldi's and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that those are all unique things, and I think that that comes with communication and everything like that. As far as being able to figure out what each thing you guys are good at and everything like that. Um, so yeah, that's kind of that. But what you said something serious about what was the question?
Oh, like, do you have any things that were more on the serious side that maybe nothing could have prepared you for this moment being a parent, or this moment being in a marriage, or being a home or pet owner, stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that?
So the amount of what took an adjustment for me is trying to find time with your significant other. Because I don't know if I would call it selfish, but I would always strive for one-on-one time and things like that. Not knowing actually how difficult it is, and how much you are sometimes asking your spouse to pull away, and everything like that. And Maureen and I have um, when we met, she already had Brooke, and so Brooke was 2 when we got together. So like there has never been a time when Maureen and I haven't had kids. So,
Mm,
we went through the whole dating phase and everything like that. But it was a unique dating phase because it was a dating phase where, we would have to pick and choose our nights, to be able to go out and do stuff one on one, without interrupting the parent child relationship. So that's
mm-hmm,
something that's been unique to us. And
mm,
so we've never had that. And then so Luke and Brooke are 5 years apart. So then, and then all of a sudden it was, we went from one kid to two kids, right? That's what happens when you go from one to two kids. But, it's not like, but the jump from one kid to two kids, I think is a huge jump.
Yeah.
When you have one, you're still, I think everything is still kind of maintain your lane, or you can kind of maintain what you have been doing. Where once you have that second kid, there's no downtime. And
Mm.
Brooke was very good as a young child, everything like that. She still is. What I'm saying is like no sleep problems, no eating problems,
Mm.
nothing like that. And Luke, on the other hand, I don't think Luke slept more than 3 hours until he was like 18 months, 24 months.
Wow.
And we tried everything.
Yeah.
We would try, let's give him corned beef and potatoes an hour before he goes to bed because it'll get him full and he'll be passed out. Right? That didn't even work. So just and it would we I really feel like we spent 18 to 24 months just really trying to push on that and push on that and push on that. And then so you're dealing with that and then still trying to find and maintain your spousal relationship. It's a lot of give and take. And, to your point, as
Hmm.
far as trying to find your roles and responsibilities, there's a lot of trial and error. You can
Yeah.
try, okay, every Wednesday we're going to watch a movie or go get something to eat or something like that. And you just have to kind of be flexible, maintain open communication. Like, hey, it's really bothering me that we haven't been able to do anything in a month,
Hmm.
or it's really bothering me this or that. And I communication for what I'm 42 now. Communication for like my first 41 and a half years was never my strong suit. Like it was back to kind of you saying, we're guys. I think that guys in general, and again, this is generality. So if I offend anybody or anybody disagrees, then that's what it is. But like, I feel like in general, guys seem to internalize a lot of things. And one time I was talking to Luke about kind of explaining what pouting is. Like, this is what you're doing. Like, something's wrong with you, and instead of you telling me what's going on with you, you just are going to act a certain way so that I, make an adjustment or whatever. And I'm thinking, shit, I think I do that. I think I do that. 40, 42. And I was just thinking, man, so I'm sitting here trying to talk to, my, 10, 11, 12-year-old. I don't remember how old he was when we were having this conversation. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head, like, man, I think I do this. I think I do this as a grown man.
uh,
And just kind of, going through all the motions and everything like that. It's just like you just have to find time and you have to communicate openly. And when you communicate openly, I think that when you're talking about, movies this way or that way, or concerts this way or that way, or shopping this way or that way, the more that you communicate, the more that you're able to find like a happy medium ground where it's a good spot for both people.
yeah. Well, to piggyback off that one, I think another one is nothing could have prepared me for the first time you hear your child sound or talk or swear or do something like you.
Yeah.
And so when that realization that he was pouting and they're like, oh, I think I do that. So a moment for us was, I believe, the second day of the second week of school, second year of preschool, and Dracy dropped an F bomb at school. He said, I'm so effing angry. And so we heard about it. And I was like, well, at least he used it in the right context.
I agree with you. I agree
Right,
with you.
right.
Yep.
So, but there's been times also where like I've heard him kind of react to his brother the same way like that I
Mhm.
react to them, and like just hearing them pick up things from you, like that one could be kind of a serious and a funny one, like
Mhm.
you kind of hearing them react both ways, but yeah, nothing could prepare you for that, for realizing, oh man, they sound just like me, or the other part, oh man, I sound just like my parents did,
Yep.
like, yeah. So it's like, oh wow.
Yep.
And that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah. It's just a thing. It's just a
Yeah,
thing. Yep.
it's just the thing. And that's why it's, it's easier to, I don't want to say easier, but when you become more aware of that, then you are more aware of the way you talk around your kids or what kind of information you're saying in front of them or around them. And I think Lee even hit on that, either in the interview or I think on, maybe it was in her book, but just talking about like your kids, even if you think they don't understand, they don't hear you, like they hear you, like they're paying attention. Like
Mm-hmm.
you might think they're reading a book or watching TV, but they're listening
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So
That's good. I think that's good that they're doing that. I think that observational learning is very important. And I touched on this when we were talking about priorities and things like that. I think
mm-hmm,
that, the amount that we, sit down and have a formal conversation with our kids, and, mine are different topics than yours, obviously, right? Mine
right,
are 12 and 17 at this point. We're going through the whole college thing and everything like that. So like the conversations are different, but what you get out of a sit down conversation and then what you get out of doing by action, by them observing your actions, I think that, it again, I think it goes a long way with the way that you present yourself. I same way as far as the cussing, I am loose lipped. And, like you said, every once in a while you hear one of your kids, use it, and it's just like, yeah. And it's like, you try to say, okay, I need to tone that back a little bit, at least when I can.
yeah,
But yeah, a lot of things are very observational, and it's, you know,
mm-hmm,
whether it's the way that you talk to your parents or whether it's the way that you talk to your spouse or whatever it is, like
mm-hmm,
if they hear you talking to somebody a certain way, then they think that that's the okay way to talk to somebody,
yep,
and they're going to go ahead and they're going to do the same thing. And then if you snap back on them real quick, like this is not the right way to do it, and it's like, well, Dad, I just heard you say that. And it's like, oh
yeah,
yeah, good point, good
yeah,
point. Yep.
yeah. Um, Now, one thing you brought up was having those conversations with them, and this is one I think for marriage. Two things that I think are pretty serious to realize with when it comes to your marriage. One, nothing could prepare you for the importance of knowing your spouse's love language. So, especially when
Yeah.
you are a parent and you are trying to make sure you're staying connected with your spouse, and you might think of a gesture or doing something for them that you think, oh, well, that's what I would want. Like, and,
Yep.
but it's not exactly their love language. Um, and whereas you might think, oh, well, I'm going on a guy's weekend, but I'll bring her back something nice, or I'll do something for her before I go, give her a gift of some sort. Like, well, no, like your spouse's love language might just be quality time. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe get the kids to bed early or get the kids occupied with something, and then just spend some time, just the two of you together and stuff. So importance of knowing your spouse's love language. But I think the other one that's really important that nothing could prepare me for is how helpful the difficult conversations are to have with your spouse when you have to sit down and have that heart to heart and let them know something that has been bothering you, or if they're the one telling you something's been bothering them. uh, Leanne and I have had a few of those that were, I mean, I would say monumental in our marriage. One of them was she had been holding on to it for a few days, and I could tell something was up. And then she was nervous to tell me at the time when I was working as a painter. She was nervous to ask me to stay home to be a stay-at-home dad with the kids, and I knew that was difficult for her because of how she acted the days leading up to it. I knew something was up,
Yeah.
but she finally had the nerve to do it. And then the other one I would say that we had this year was when my actions that the kids were watching, call back here, tying everything together. My actions, the way I was behaving in front of the kids, the way I was reacting to things, um, was not healthy. It was not good for the kids to see. It was not healthy for me. It was not healthy for Leanne to experience. And so she had to have the difficult conversation with me of like, um, you need to step back from things, like, and I need you to pay attention to the kids. I need to pay attention to how you're talking to me, how you're
Mm-hmm.
talking to yourself. and you probably need to go talk to someone. And we talked about that in the priorities
Mm-hmm.
one, where we talked about me going to therapy. And we talked about me not posting on social media, doing any podcasts or anything like that. And that was difficult for me to hear, but I'm so thankful that she did that and had that difficult conversation with me, because it has put us in such a better place. It has helped me with Dracy and his autism a lot better and understand more what it is, which led me to reading that book and being more prepared for our meeting with the schools next week. And Leanne and I are closer. Have a better, healthier relationship with the boys. So that those difficult conversations can be so helpful. And that's definitely one I think people need to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. And you have to understand. You said you saw her mannerisms change and her maybe her demeanor change. Leading up to it, because she's stressing out about it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not looking forward to having this conversation because I know that this is going to be a confrontation. And I think that that's something that I have done and I still do. But then it's like, as you hold off on having the conversation, it's good for a little bit, right? To kind of get your ideas and thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
everything in order. And then think about a way to frame it, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
talk to a therapist, they talk about doing like the soft introduction and everything like that, which I have a hard time doing. I'm
Yeah.
working on it, but you start almost running through conversations through your head over and over, so that you are almost like amping yourself up, like, okay, I'm going to say this, and then she was always thinking, I'm going to say this, and then Dustin's going to say this, and then I'm going to say this, and then Dustin's going to say this, and it's just going to be crazy.
Yeah.
um and then us on the receiving end of that conversation, it sometimes we're set back for a minute, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, don't immediately react if you aren't sure about what's going on with your feelings, or with like, even sometimes like that conversation might have caught you completely off guard. You had never even
Yeah.
thought about that.
Yeah.
So you're not even in a position to really have to fire back. And when I say fire back, right there, I guess that almost you know alludes to it's going to be a confrontation. So
Yeah.
to sit there and have a back and forth conversation about it, it's like, okay, yeah, so why do you think that, or what do you think that?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you were thinking that, yeah, that's nothing that I've ever really considered. Um,
Yeah.
you know, and so what has made you think that, or what's been your thought process, or this and that, and then you start having a back and forth, and then usually it's not where um you thought maybe one extreme end, she thought the other extreme end. Usually you find a good compromise right in the middle,
Yeah.
or middle ish, and
Yeah.
in are able to move forward, and you can make some adjustments going forward. And I think that kind of what you're talking about there about I'm sure that you never had growing up, like, what, I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
And I think that in our lives, and then even in our parenting lives, that these kind of things we can't be prepared for, and we need to take them and run with them one way or the other as we go. And you need to almost remove your like rigid blinders, like this is what's going to happen, and kind of take each opportunity the different way, and see where you can go with it, and see if there is a better route or a different route that can get you to a different place.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think what you're saying about us being like confrontational and stuff, or worrying about your spouse being confrontational and stuff, like, and you and I haven't really talked much religion by any means. I don't know how much of believer you and your wife are, and your family and stuff, but like, I do know one thing. I've given the advice to young couples before and stuff. Anytime you're going to have that difficult conversation with someone, a good way to disarm each other is to pray together before it. Because one, there's something that's so beautiful about seeing your spouse pray, but also it's the fact that you are willing to take it to God before you take it to your spouse. Like, it is showing them how important it is to you that you want to communicate, and you're able to to put out there, like, hey, like this is something really, really difficult, but that, you put on my head, on my heart, and I want to talk about it with them. Please, help guide them to receive this information well, and let us come together and stuff. So it's a really good way to disarm one another ahead of time, and also remove any distractions that you
Mm-hmm.
might have. When you have little kids running around, like they're going to peek in your conversation and interrupt all the time.
Yep.
But when you have the opportunity to have those kind of conversations at a time, like make sure your kids are distracted, make sure your phones are put away, the TV's not within sight or anything, like, um, like that. Those are pretty critical too, and having those difficult conversations and making them go a lot more smooth
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Um, Now, when it comes to, should we lighten it up a little bit? Let's go. All right. I was gonna go serious again, but let's take it light for a second, and then we could bring it back to
All right.
a little more serious. When your kid drops trow in the most inappropriate places to go to the bathroom. I don't know if you experienced that with Luke when he was of
No.
age, if he just dropped. No, man.
No.
Okay, I'm not worthy, Master Dad Brandon over there and stuff.
No,
So
no, I don't think it
no,
has
no,
anything to do with it.
Mm,
No, we never really even ran into that situation.
that's
But every
funny.
time when you bring it up, it makes me think of, I don't know if you've seen the movie, um, which one is it? It's got Vince Vaughn. It's Couples Retreat, and
Oh yeah, yeah, in the
they're at the
bathroom in the hardware store. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. But
and
why did you have that happen? What happened?
so one year, I would say it was like a year and a half ago, probably. Our church, because of COVID, was doing like outdoor services on Sundays, and so everyone would be in the parking lot, and like we had a stage and everything built there and stuff. I just remember, like, so here's like the focal point, and just to the stage, like I believe it was Dracy was like starting to drop trout, about to try to pee, like where it was like inside everyone. I'm like, oh no! Like I quick picked him up and ran right behind like a little pavilion so we could pee back there. I'm like, it's just drop trousers in front of the whole congregation. Like, oh my gosh! But then Draco, who is potty trained probably within the last 6 months. He's more technically potty trained, but he's still, if he's distracted, he's too busy having fun. Like he won't pay attention to his body, and like so he'll wait till the last second.
Yeah.
Sometimes still have an accident. So 2 weeks ago, we were invited to um, go check out the the Baseball Heritage Museum over in Cleveland. It's right by a real nice baseball field called League Park, which is an
Hmm.
all turf field. The infield is a tan turf and everything, but like part of our experience getting to go check out the Heritage Museum, and again, this is a stadium where like legendary players have come through, like Cy
Hmm.
Young and Larry Doby and stuff. Like they still have in the museum part, or maybe it's the visitor center, like the stairs that went down into the dugout, the original dugout of the baseball field that used to be there, that like a bunch of players that played in the Negro Leagues played on for
Hmm.
some of the old Cleveland baseball teams. Anyways, so it's like hallowed ground, even though it's a
Hmm.
newer stadium on it. We had a chance to walk out onto the baseball field after a game was over. So we're running around, like playing on the field stuff, and just out in shallow center field, suddenly Draco just drops his trousers, starts peeing on the field. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And like, so there's like a custodial guy that's like walking, cleaning up like litter from the baseball game. And like that was there before, throwing stuff away, cleaning up the trash. I'm like quick stand in front of Draco, make sure the guy can't see that Draco's bare butt showing, and just he's peeing. And I'm like, well, at least I know rain will wash it away. Fast forward a little bit, and we're standing like right by the dugout. One of our hosts had invited us, so he was getting ready to leave. Speaking of Draco, hey bud, here's Draco making an appearance.
Good morning. How's your nap, bud?
He's like, I didn't have a nap. he can't hear you either because of the
Oh
headphones.
yeah.
Um, but so we're standing in the dugout, and next thing I know, Draco is going, "Daddy, I pooped my pants." I'm like, "What? What?" So I go to check him, and no, he didn't poop his pants. He was currently pooping. So all of a sudden, I see it coming out, and and he's standing on the infield as he's telling me. So I go to pick him up, and poop, like a little bit falls onto the turf field. I'm like, I turn him around and put him in the dugout, which is concrete, and a little more comes out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like so embarrassed. And so thankfully no one else was outside. I had to tell Dracy to run inside and tell mommy, like, because she was still in the visitor center. I'm like, can you go tell mommy that Draco pooped and you need to stay by mommy for a minute. So then I had to take him to the bathroom and then pick up paper towels and go back out and pick up, what he dropped and stuff. And then I hope the dugout we were in was the visitors' dugout because the guy had just changed the trash cans and I just threw it
Dropped it right
in
in.
in that trash can that was in the dugout. So
That's
um,
great.
yeah, it was an experience. So
What are you gonna
I
do,
mean,
right? What
eh,
are you gonna do? You just got to
exactly.
adjust to it.
Yeah,
Yep.
but nothing could prepare me for that.
No, no.
All right, we had a nice little pause there to get Draco situated again, make sure he wasn't pooping on any baseball fields or anything. So you were just saying something about you weren't prepared for how much is trial and error, though.
Yeah,
I think that's a good
yeah,
point to make.
yeah. I just think that when you walk into relationships, parenting, whatever it is, you think you're going to be good at it, right? Like, oh, almost like, oh, this is natural, and I'll figure it out, whatever. And looking for like definitive ways to do things, and you
Hmm.
can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you can do whatever, but it's really what you're doing with that is just learning different ways to do things.
Yeah.
There isn't one way to do things.
Mm.
And as your boys get older and older, you'll start realizing, not start realizing, but you'll realize more and more how different they're going to be from each other.
Yeah.
And just it's okay. So like with Brooke, okay, so we did this with Brooke. Like she got her first phone when she was X age. And then all of a sudden, Luke's, he's 5 years younger and he gets a phone at X age, and it ended up being like sooner than Brooke did. And it's like, oh, well, we didn't do this with Brooke until she was, 15 or
Yeah.
14 or whatever it was, and it's like, well, we shouldn't do that with Luke until that. And it's like, yeah, but it's different. So you
Yeah.
start like almost like really rigid, like this is how it's supposed to be done. It's going to work this way. And
Yeah.
then it doesn't,
Yeah.
and, it's just, you have to almost let them lead you. And you have to be willing to take into consideration what they are trying to tell you.
Hmm.
And it's just different. Like with Brooke, like she's a senior, so we're going through the whole college process, and it really picks up when you're a junior. And we went out to for spring break. We went out to LA, and we stayed out there for a week, and she wanted to look at USC, UCLA, like look at these schools, and it's like a 5.5 hour plane ride, just to
Yeah.
get there. And so it's like, as parents, you're like, oh man, like this is not good, and whatever. But it's you kind of, and they were both beautiful, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's perfect out there. It's great out there. For it's got the good and bad, but
Right.
it's like it's like, okay, so her mind isn't made up at that point. It's like you have to provide them with information, like information gathering. Like, okay, it's not where I can just say this is where you're going to go. You're not going here, because then there's resentment there, or there is like,
Yeah.
oh, you're always trying to tell me what to do and this and that. It's like, okay, our job is to gather and present information, whether it be things that we have been through ourselves,
Hmm.
or things that we have listened to or read or talked to other people and heard from them, and just seeing what works. It could be as simple as potty training. It could be, okay, well, I talked to our friends, and their kid, potty trained by the time that he was, 6 months old, and this and that, and it's just like, okay, now my kid's, you know, 15 months and it's still going through it and it's not working. And I just, at this point, I forget the whole timeline of all that kind of stuff. So if I,
Yeah,
if the numbers are off, then they're off.
yeah.
But it's just, your situation isn't the same as anybody else's.
Yeah.
And, it takes so much trial and error, so much admitting that you weren't doing something the best way, or admitting that you weren't right, and things like that. Um, it's just like a constant learning process. And
Yeah.
it don't think I would have ever been. You can never prepare yourself. It was just, not even that I couldn't have been prepared. I don't think anybody can prepare themselves enough going into um, parenting. It's just a
Yeah.
wild ride, and really, you don't know if your decisions that you're making are right until 15 years down the road. you know
Yep.
and it's just, it's crazy. And I'm a person that, is I'm an immediate gratification person, and I like to
Mm,
know whether I'm doing things right or wrong, and you don't get that. So
yeah.
it's
Uh,
crazy, and you just need to take a different mindset, and it changes people a lot, and some things that weren't as important to them before now become very important to you, and vice versa. Things that were very important to you aren't anymore.
yeah.
And it's just a wild ride. It's a wild ride, and you
Yeah.
know I feel like when people get themselves into ruts or whatever, it's like, okay, this stage right now is difficult, but in 18 months from now, it's going to be so easy. It's going to be so easy, and it never gets easy. It never gets easy, and it really shouldn't,
Right.
right? It's all about the
Yeah.
effort that you're giving, but like, you're dealing with different things. You're dealing with picking up poop off of a baseball field, and we're dealing with financing college, and it's just
Yeah.
like, it never gets easy. It just gets different. It's just different issues, different circumstances,
Yeah.
different problems that come up. It's just an ever evolving thing, and then all of a sudden, we're old, and and we have
Yeah.
grandkids, and then we just load up the kids with movies and sugar and send them home, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think one of the things there I remember seeing, there's a guy on Instagram. His handle's Tired Dad, and one of the things he posted was that being a good parent is the hardest thing you'll ever have to do,
Hmm.
because you can be. It's real easy to be a bad parent because you don't have to do anything. You don't have to participate. You don't have to pay attention. You have to, like, but to be a good parent, like, it's a hard job because you were having to do a lot. And I could say from our experience with everything with Tracy right now, like, Tracy having some of his outbursts, some sensory needs and everything, like, we've been able to curtail a lot of the issues that he was having, but it takes a lot of work on our part, making sure that we are prepared and he's prepared. He's aware of what's going on. We find the routine with him and everything. So, and I think there's other parts of that where it's just, you to be a good parent, like, it is hard work. You have to put in the work to be a good parent. But at the same time, everything you're saying, that, like, you are not going to see the results right away. You might not know anything till down the line later
Hmm.
on. And that's tough to think about. And one of the things on my list, that is when they're young and you get annoyed by their endless questions. Daddy, 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 mommy, this, and you get annoyed, like, oh, just, you have to ask so many questions. But then I imagine for you, as something you could relate to, you start to worry about when they get older. Okay, they're not asking me the questions anymore. Who
Yep.
are they getting their answers from?
Yep.
And it's like, so being a good daddy and being patient and answering the questions, and even pointing out to them, hey, well, you've asked that question before. Remember, this is what it is. Like, oh yeah, like, taking the time to do that, how important that is. It might be exhausting for you at times, but you still want to be the person that they come to later on. So you don't want them seeing you getting angry and hitting or kicking things and stuff, and because you want them to have that kind of reaction. You want you want them being afraid to tell you things
Yep.
because they're afraid that you're going to get angry. You want them to keep coming back to you. So if nothing can prepare you for like that realization of like, no, I really have to reel it in because I need to be that person they get their answers from. They come to when they're nervous, when they're scared, when they're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That they need to realize that I'm going to love them unconditionally. So,
Yeah, and so there's a couple things there that I actually had written down that you kind of just alluded to there. So the first one is like if you're not teaching them, they're going to learn that stuff on the bus from random other kids that might not even know what they're talking about. You know,
right.
we saw that when Brooke was younger and riding the bus to school, she'd come home with some interesting thoughts. Um, you know, but we've always been very open to answering
Open.
questions. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
or if we're watching a movie, instead of you guys don't watch this part, instead of that, we explain things. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's went a long way to, okay, when a question does come up that they don't understand, or someone's talking about something that they don't understand, that they come to us instead of asking, one of their peers. Um, but like as what you just said, when they get older, all of a sudden they stop coming to you. They have so much more information when they're getting older now. And
Mm-hmm.
a big topic that I'm sure we could have a whole episode on is like social media. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, so that's the way that they interact with their friends. That's the way that they learn things. Um, so you need to monitor, but not necessarily smother. And I think that that's kind of a common theme from when the kids are very little, to where to when they're completely grown, is that you have to give them enough space to figure things out themselves, but you also have to be there to help them navigate. Like to the point where so when Luke was little, I again, just like I was saying before, as far as the months and everything from like 1 to 3 and when things were happening, like I don't have a concept of that anymore.
Right.
It's like gone. But there was a point where I don't know if it was Luke's second birthday, first birthday, I don't remember what it was, but it was around there. And it was where he wasn't really speaking much, responding.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were worried and took him to the doctor. And they in the doctor went in, like immediately like he has hearing issues. Maureen's freaking out, right? I mean, that's you don't want to hear that, right?
Right.
Um, and then so we did this hearing test and this and that and everything's fine. What it ended up coming down to is that when someone would ask him something or something like that, we would answer for him.
Ah.
And so he thought, okay, if I don't even respond, I know one of these two are going to say something. One of these two are going to answer for me, so I'm
He
not
had you
going to say
guys
nothing.
trained. He
Yeah.
had you
So
trained.
exactly. And so like instead of us letting him like, Luke, you answer, go ahead, you answer. Instead of that, so like we didn't give him enough rope to do that. Um, and you'll see, when you go out to restaurants, you'll see that kids or parents having their kids order at a restaurant and things like that, and try to like get them ready
Mm.
for that, that next stage and everything like that. But yeah, it's like, it was just us answering too much for him, but
Yeah.
it went into, oh yeah, he's got a hearing issue. It's like, what?
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
that that does make me think about things that we try to withhold their independence to a degree. Because I mean,
Yep.
they're 4 and 3, and Dracy just has such a big heart, and he's always wanted to do things for people. Like if we go to a party, um, like a family gathering party or something like that, like, and there's punch or water or some set out, like he's trying to pour everyone a cup of juice, cup of punch, stuff like, and just hand them out. And we have to tell them like, no, don't do that. Like they can get it themselves. Like it's
Hmm.
okay. Like, but there's times where he's wanting to do other things by himself, and we usually just take that independence from him. So that's definitely making me think that's a good point. But that is funny.
Yeah.
His
It's
hearing
like pure
issue, like,
panic mode,
whoa,
man. Pure panic
yeah,
mode.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, uh, but that makes me think about another one is I'm sure Maureen was worried about suddenly, like, okay, what does that mean for his future? He has hearing issues. Like, what's it mean? And I think that's one that through therapy I've discovered it's something I do a little bit too much. I think my wife does a little bit too much. Where again, like with Drake, worried about the fact that we're a multiracial family and we're worried about like how the boys will be perceived as they get older and they're no longer just cute little boys, but young black men and stuff. We spend so much time worrying about their future that we sometimes lose track of right now and lose
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity to just be in the moment and focus on if we take care of this now, that will take care of the future. We don't have to worry about the future if we're just here right now and
Mm-hmm.
focus on the issues at hand. And I think that's the one that like I broke down in therapy, realizing like, oh, I was been worrying about this, getting Tracy ready for school for next year and getting his IEP and everything, and then I'm worried about, am I still going to be working the same job come fall, or am I going to have to be doing something else? And do I wait because we don't know how he's going to react to going from preschool 4 days a week for 3 hours to all day kindergarten 5 days a week? Like, just
Mm-hmm.
suddenly it just all starts snowballing, and I just had all this pressure. I'm like, wait a minute, now just focus on now. We
Yep.
don't know what his IEP is going to be. We got to take care of the things right now, and that will all take care of itself in
Mm-hmm.
the future.
Yep.
So,
Yep. And it's
uh,
hard, it's hard to do that. It's,
yeah,
and then it starts snowballing and then you're just extremely overwhelmed. And I think a lot of people do that. I know I do that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like, you know, the stuff we start worrying about is, there's so many steps before you even get to that point. Like you can't dwell on that part. It's like there's so many things that are happening between now and then that that make it so that if you're making a decision now or then, a lot of the times it just works itself out, naturally, by like a
mm,
chain of decisions or a chain of events where, right now you're thinking I just need to make a hard and fast decision, and then really that's not even the case. But
yeah,
it's extremely common. I bet 99.9% of people do that.
yeah. That's true. I'm not alone.
You're not. You're not.
All right, so just a couple more. Some of these were actually sent in to me via private message or
Okay.
comment as I put a post out yesterday. First time your child says, "I hate you." Nothing could prepare you for that, man. That's rough. I don't know if you've experienced that one. I got to imagine, not
Haven't.
even with teenagers.
No. Nah. I don't. Oh, I can't even imagine. Oh,
Oh,
it would be.
it's
It
rough.
would be. It
Well,
would be a killer.
and that one it's difficult too. To another version of that is um, hearing Dracy talk about his first parents. He
Hmm.
came to us at 3 months old, but he's had stories in his head about his first parents and
Hmm.
things that they did together, and then in moments of like tantrums and anger and stuff where he'll say something about like, oh well, my first mommy, my first daddy and stuff, and we're just like, okay, because
Yeah.
those could turn into terrible situations where you do not want to say something that could very easily come off your lips.
Yeah.
Um, so,
That's rough.
um, and then the first time your child says that they hate themselves. Don't know if you've been there in that with, especially with social media, and maybe bullying or anything like that. If Brooke
You
or Luke
know,
experience
to
any of
be
that
honest with
stuff, but
you, we haven't, but that's a constant fear. It's a constant
yeah,
fear. We, especially Maureen, does a very good job of talking to the kids a lot. She's very good at that. Know your worth. All that kind of stuff.
mm,
Because you're right. With social media, you can have blind interaction with people, and it can be ruthless. Because
mm-hmm,
you're a tough guy on your Twitter or on your Snap or Instagram or whatever, and you never even need to come face to face with the person. You can just share just actually brutal things to somebody directly.
mm-hmm,
You go on about your day, and the other person it could just ruin them. And that's something that like I said before, monitoring social media. Monitoring the social media, but then also monitoring you see that all of a sudden your kid is withdrawn or,
Mm-hmm.
speaking a different way, or if they have a change in their behavior pattern or something like that, like it's a red flag and you can't just let it sit for a while. Like if you're seeing it
Yeah.
happen as a pattern, you have to just, and that's where, open communication, with your kid comes in, it goes a long way because you want them to feel that they can come to you and that you're approachable. And now it's not always going to be the way, right? They're not always
Mm-hmm.
going to come to you, which is fine because they need to start processing their own thoughts and feelings also. But to be honest, out of those two examples that you just said, I would rather have one of my kids come to me and say that they hate me instead of hearing one of them say that they hate themselves, because that's a lot
Yeah.
deeper. Where I think a lot of it, if it's just an "I hate you" from a kid, it's it's an immediate emotional reaction to you not letting them sleep over at a friend's house or something like that.
Right. Right.
Where the next one, um, I hate myself. Like that's just, I think that hurts the parent more than it hurts the kid. I can't even imagine that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
We
rough.
actually experienced that with Dracy. We were talking, my wife and I were talking about the importance of not only us affirming the kids, but them learning to affirm themselves. And it was like a right on cue. Like we went out in the living room and Dracy's like, "Daddy, I love you." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, buddy. I love you. But do you love yourself?" And he was like, "Mm-mm." And we're like, "Wait, what? What do you mean?" He's like, "No." And he's like, "I'm different than you." We're like, "Whoa, what are you talking about? What do you
Yeah.
mean?" He's like, "Well, you have peach skin, I have brown skin." And we're like, at at what was it? It was at 3.5. He made that distinction about his skin being different than ours, and we were like, "What?
Mhm.
What?" Like we knew there would be conversation about skin color and everything someday down the road, but we didn't think it
Mhm.
was going to be 3.5. But we've had some blessings come from that. Um, finding a church that's more integrated with more people, families that look like this. White
Mhm.
people that adopted black kids or mixed families and stuff, and
Mhm.
two different kinds of communities, a predominantly white church, a predominantly black church that merged together for the purpose of just people um, being more comfortable with each other and just building more of what was really envisioned together of God, of like we are all one, we are meant to love one another.
Mhm.
Um, so a beautiful thing came from that, but just hearing that from him, like, just definitely made a heartache. And there's times where Tracy is like really, really hard on himself if he makes a mistake or does something like he's in this mode right now where he's trying to self punish.
Mm.
And it's like, buddy, like you don't have to do that. Like you made what we call a red decision, like not, you weren't a bad kid, but you made a red decision, like, and it's okay. Like we make adults make red decisions. Daddy,
Mhm.
you've seen Daddy make red decisions, like, and the way he's handled things and or reacted to things, like, it's okay. Like you don't have to do that. If there's something that you did that deserves a punishment, mommy, daddy will figure it out. But we're
Yeah.
like, you don't have to give this up or do this or go, like, it's okay, buddy. Like
Mhm.
mommy, daddy are here for you. Like you don't have to worry about that. So,
Mhm.
all right. So let's end on a good, fun, easy one. Um, Nothing could have prepared me for how easy it is to get a dad bod by eating your kids' leftovers,
Yeah.
especially at drive-through and stuff like. And then the flip side of it, how hard it is to get rid of that dad bod
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
as we're
I
getting
grabbed both
older
of
and
those.
our metabolism shuts down and stuff. Like it's just, oh,
Yeah, yeah. And it's we get so caught up in trying to raise these little mini me's. We take the focus off of ourselves. It's just when we're at the stage that we are right now, the focus is like you said before, like mom and dad brain. It's like it's all over the place. You're focusing on your spouse, your significant other in that relationship. You're focusing on your kids in that relationship, and then you still have to focus on yourself in all that kind of stuff. It's just a lot. It's a lot, and
yeah,
it's very overwhelming at times. It's extremely rewarding at times, but like we talked about when we were talking about priorities, I am a big advocate for therapy. and just being
Mm-hmm.
able to speak about things like that. Because some of the things that you may be dealing with, you don't necessarily want to go to your spouse and talk about that. You kind of want to figure it out first, to make sure that you're going to use the right words, and that what you're feeling is not that it's justified, but it's like that you're able to articulate it well. But yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces. You're having to focus on a lot of things, and it's yeah, it's good. It's good. It's
Yep.
rewarding, and it's unique. More than anything, it's unique, and it leads you on a journey that that didn't necessarily know that you would ever be on. And you have to take the small wins, as they go, and you have to enjoy the things that come up as they go. If you're constantly thinking about, 5 steps down the road, all of a sudden your kids are going to be growing and out of the house, and you're like, shit, what just happened in the last 20 years, 18 years,
Yeah.
you got to take the small wins, and you got to enjoy yourself along the road.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think you hit on something too about being so focused on everyone else, and sometimes you just kind of lose sight of yourself. And I think that's again one of the reasons why one of the things I wanted to focus on this season of Family by Heart, especially, is making sure that we are leading our families by example. We're leading by example by taking care of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and having those using the tools that we have available to us, like therapy. And I don't know about you, but this podcast, going to talk with you and talk with our guests in their interviews and learning and stuff, has been a great outlet for me, as well as opportunities to learn and grow and stuff. Um, so I think there's a lot to be said for us making sure that we are focusing on ourselves. And so before we sign off, I do want to talk about a program that I've been working on, and I haven't really talked to you about it. But I'd be curious to see if there's anyone interested in kind of taking part in a new program I call Reach, and it's as in Reach for a better version of yourself. It's kind of a acronym, and I just kind of gloss over. It's R is to review, take a look at different areas, aspects of your life, what you've gone through, what you've experienced, what you're doing now, expectations, um, kind of expectations you have on yourself for your home life, your job as a dad. Achieve, what are the things that you want to achieve, what have you wanted to achieve, haven't been able to, what have been the roadblocks. Communicate, make sure you're communicating with a friend, someone who has your back, communicating with your spouse, communicating with your kids. And then H, honor, bring in honor to yourself, what makes you feel good about yourself, bring honor to your family, what kind of things are you teaching your kids to leave a legacy for your family, what you want them to be. So I'm definitely going to be putting a post out there about this program,
Good.
about possibly having a free cohort, maybe having kind of group about 6 guys together, where we could do like kind of a Zoom meeting or a meeting on here and talk, maybe have a little Facebook community and kind of hold each other accountable. But that's something definitely interested in talking about. But um, any thoughts from you on that?
I think that's all good. I'm big on, self-reflection and all that kind of stuff. And I think that, if we're not good within ourselves, that we're not, that, everything that's around us is, um, suffers. And,
Yeah,
you got to be feeling good about yourself, and be self-aware and everything like that. And it'll help all the other situations that you're dealing with if you're in a good spot.
absolutely.
Yep.
So look for more details on that coming out, or feel free to message me in the meantime, Dustin at familybyheart.me. In the meantime, that's going to be it for this episode. Again, we'll be doing a interview with a local DJ coming up in a couple weeks. We might find some time in between now and then to get a few other things recorded. But thank you
Mm-hmm.
all for being here, for being part of the family. If there's any of these things I couldn't have been prepared for that are yours, please feel free to send them to us. We'd love to hear those, and share them with everyone else. For now, that's going to be it. So remember, whether you were leading the family, whether you're growing in the family, no matter how your family's formed, we're born into our names, but we're all family here. This is Family by Heart. Till next time.